Well, welcome back. In the last chapter, we got a good taste of Redux, including actions, action creators, and even some reducers in there as well. In this chapter, we're going to focus on creating an app that's going to serve three purposes. First, we're going to solidify our knowledge of React. Number two, we're going to get much more familiar with Redux. And number three, we're going to figure out how to make asynchronous calls with Redux, like AJAX requests, for example. So let's talk a little bit about the app that we're going to build by looking at a mock-up, and then we're going to talk about architecture and challenges. Okay, so here's our mock-up right here. It's not unlike the YouTube video player app that we built previously, but this time around, it's obviously going to be Redux themed. So our app is going to be a weather forecast browser. At the top, a user is going to be able to search for a city, so like say, San Francisco or New York. When they submit the city by clicking search here or pressing enter, we're going to submit a query to a third-party API that's going to serve us back forecasted weather data for the next 5 days. Once we get that weather back, we're going to add a row on a table here with information about that particular city's forecast for the next 5 days. The user can search for many different cities over time, and for each search, it should just add an additional row. So in the table itself, the first column is going to be just the city that they search for, the actual name. The remaining columns on here are going to be the temperature, pressure, and humidity that it's forecasted for the next 5 days. And as a little twist, rather than doing like just numbers or something like that, we're going to do a simple line chart to represent each of those values. So each chart in here is going to represent the temperature, the pressure, and the humidity for that given city over the next 5 days. To keep the complexity of these charts down a little bit, we're not going to be doing a lot around adding, say, like axes to the charts or values on the charts. It's going to be a lot more for just giving our users the ability to have at a very simple glance, in the next 5 days, do I expect the weather to generally go up or down in temperature? Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the challenges that we need to solve here. The first challenge, as I mentioned above, is we need to figure out a way to make AJAX requests with Redux. When we did this with the YouTube app, we just made an AJAX request right in the event handler of our component. So that was kind of like an approach where we only had React, right? We didn't have Redux around to manage our application state. With Redux, we need to centralize all of our logic into reducers and actions as much as possible. And instead, our React components are only responsible for showing data. They're not responsible for fetching data at all. Of course, they can tell Redux, like, hey, please go fetch this data. Someone just clicked on the search button up here. But in general, our React components are not going to make any AJAX requests whatsoever. We're going to rely entirely upon Redux to do that for us. So that's the first challenge. The second challenge is, obviously, we got to figure out how to do this chart here, this line chart. We're going to use a third-party library to draw the chart for us, but still, we need to figure out how to work with a React component that has been created by another developer and integrate it into our own project. The third challenge that we need to figure out here is how to deal with a Redux application where our state changes significantly over time. In the last app we built, the state was fairly static. We had that set array of books, and the only thing that ever changed was the active book. This time around, we're going to be changing our state significantly. As you might be able to imagine, we're going to have a list of cities here. Each time that a user conducts a search, we're not going to replace that array of cities, right? We're going to add on to that array. So it's not like the active book that we were working with previously where we just kind of knocked off the existing active book and said, I don't care about what was there before, it's not active anymore. This time around, we're going to kind of be amalgamating or gathering state over time. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started by installing our boilerplate package. I'm going to navigate in my browser to github.com/StephenGreiter/Redux simple starter. And once here, remember we can grab this repo one of two ways. Either clone it from the link right here if you're familiar with Git, or you can download it from the zip right here. So I'm going to clone it to my machine. I'm going to change into the directory, and then I'm going to do an npm install to grab all of our dependencies. So this is going to take a little bit of time, of course, so I'll catch you on the next section when it's complete.